Yeah, warm welcome to the introduction of how to generate randomized quizzes in Moodle with the help of Excel. Yeah, hello, my name is Joe Finzer. I'm professor of biotechnology at the Rhine-Waal University. And as many of you, I use Moodle regularly to make quizzes, also to make final quizzes. And the problem with Moodle is randomization. And in this video, I present some Excel with VBA code helping you quite a bit there. So in very short, what is it all about? So I assume you know Moodle, and in Moodle you can generate quizzes and usually generating these quizzes is not so easy to make these questions. I assume that you have already tried that. And if you do an exam, especially beginner's exam, one type of questions might be such a question like this, kind of assign the elements that you have something you want to see they have seen in the lecture and you want the students to assign. As an example, I have here a duck. This is not from my real exams. This is just as a demonstration. And you see that there are a couple of elements depicted and you want the student now to assign the elements. And this is done in this table here. And you say, okay, 4, you see here, this is most likely the hand. So you click here, hand. 6 is the tail. And see, here is the lower part. And as a demonstration, 1 as a B was given. And I check it. And believing or not, I made it. So that's very easy. But you see already that the assignment contains just some elements. So already setting this up in Moodle would take a while, such an assignment like this. But the problem with Moodle with respect to randomization is that Moodle can randomize within this here, but it cannot randomize like this, that it just uses some of these excerpts here. And of course, you cannot randomize using different pictures as an example. And this is offered by these Excel helpers. So now just let's have a look in how such an help in Excel could look like. So this is an Excel sheet generating these assign elements stuff. You see here in the question, so you don't need to go in the details. So this is explained, of course, more thoroughly for this assign in this video here. This is just to show you briefly what's happening. So I'm putting here the text that 1 is the beak, 2 is, for example, the hair, and so on. Additional choices. This I put all here. And then I can generate the output just by clicking Export Moodle XML. And I have then generated 4 questions. And now let's get these questions into Moodle. Let's go back here. So let's demonstrate how you get that into Moodle. So this is the file which has been generated by just clicking on this button. This is the question bank. And now I can just import into the question bank. I click import. I scroll down a bit, select Moodle XML format. Just drag and drop this file, import. And I have generated now 4 questions with this. Here they are. And this is question 1. Preview. And you see here we have selected A7-2 instead of 4-6C. Okay, so this is in brief what actually this Excel sheets can do. And this is just one example. There are different question types generated. You will see that at the end of the presentation. So what else can you expect? So you can, we have already shown the demo here in this introduction. I want to show you scenarios for Moodle online quizzes. I, of course, assume that you have already used Moodle and used quizzes. Then randomization in Moodle and in the examples on the limits and how these Cloze questions in Moodle work, because these are the questions which are used as a scaffold for things which are generated by the VBA code and the Excel VBA. So I show you what different question types can be generated with the Excel sheets I have generated. And of course, at the end, you have the download link for free download there on a Git, and you can just access them on the Git and download them. So if you're completely new to that, I would recommend you watch maybe all of that. If you are already an expert in Moodle randomization, have done tons of quizzes, you might just have a look at the end what Excel can offer here, what these Excel VBA code, what I have generated, can offer you here. And the detailed description of each of these elements, also of the assign, is then in separate videos. Okay, the demo we have already seen, so let's go to the scenario for online quizzes. And again, I assume that you have an idea of Moodle. This is not a video on should you make quizzes at all or whatsoever. Is a Moodle quiz appropriate? This is not teaching you how to teach. This is teaching you how you can use your Moodle quizzes more effectively. Yeah. So now, what scenarios do we have if we go for tests or exams, quizzes in Moodle? So we can either go for a final graded written exam. This is, of course, the King's discipline. This can be either at home, non-proctored, or at the university proctored, which is becoming more and more reality now with ChatGPT and so on. Outside, it will be difficult to make even quizzes at home, more and more difficult to make even quizzes at home. You can make an interims test during the semester, or this can be an obligatory test, or this can be a voluntary test. And I have made all of them already, so I have use cases for all of them. And I don't want to discuss advantages or disadvantages, but with Moodle, you have the flexibility of doing all these cases. Now, if you have a final graded written exam, of course, what you can do with respect to flexibility is low, because that's a graded exam. At the end, the students will get their grades of that, and they will bring you in trouble if you experiment there too much. Now, a voluntary interims test, that's flexible because they can do it or not. So therefore, the flexibility is big there. Intention to cheat is, of course, the more relevant for grading, the more higher the intention to cheat. Workload, stress, and so on is also higher. So again, I don't want to bother you with what to use or what not. All of this can be generated with Moodle, and depending on the courses, I use everything. I also have courses where I switched completely away from final graded exams and have SUS of in between, but it depends. I have also courses where I still have the exams at the end. Now, if you look at how the exam can be designed, so obviously a final graded exam is a single try exam usually. Voluntary interims test you can do as often as you want, and you see in between you can have these mixtures. Now, with respect to randomization, if it's a voluntary interim test, you don't need to randomize. It's voluntary anyhow. Even if it's an obligatory interim test, where you just have to do it, where the result doesn't count, there you don't have to randomize. But as soon as you have to pass or it's graded without randomization, it's getting problematic, because at the end you will end up with all the same grades. The students are there very, very smart in this respect. And with respect to the feedback, you remember with Moodle, in Moodle quizzes, you can also give feedback on different levels. Of course, feedback makes sense for all these obligatory interims tests. Pass it down to voluntary interims tests. A final graded written exam, usually you don't give a feedback. Usually you can do it, but usually this is not the case. There will be an exam review, because hopefully you don't have just questions which can be automatically corrected in a Moodle exam. Now, if we bring all that together, I would say the elephant in the room is this randomization, and that's what all is about. So how can we go for this randomization in Moodle? I want to show you an example, and I want to show you also how you can realize things using Cloze questions. Now, what Moodle can do is I don't go to Moodle for that, because you have used Moodle and you know how to do that. You can in Moodle, you can shuffle responses within questions. So you have identical responses. This is a multiple response type question you can set up in Moodle. And then what you can do is you can shuffle the order of these responses. So the responses are always the same, but you can shuffle it. So this makes cheating a bit more difficult. However, it's still quite easy because the responses are always the same. And if you have a repeated possibility, this is of no use because you will have simply the description what to do lying next to you. Now, if you want to shuffle the questions, so if you want to use different questions, this you also can do in Moodle. So this is the way this is implemented and the way this can be done. The drawback here is that you have to have for each a different separate question. Of course, you can duplicate, but then you have to go into the question and make it a new question. So setting up a question collection for a reasonable randomization is quite an effort. So just as an example, which is quite an old example because that's what I did Corona, so this non-proctored exam. So is that fair? Does it work if you randomize from many questions? The answer is yes. So here, draw many questions from a big question pool in Moodle quizzes, 19 questions in this example from overall 139 questions. Shuffle within the questions, restrict the time, and then at the end scale the results. What are the students doing? I think I don't have to explain it to you. So you can do it together with your intelligent friend. If she does the same exam at the same time, she will have no time. You can put the lecture slides next to you if it's non-proctored. Of course, they will put the lecture slide. If not, you will. But the question is there also time. And if it's, again, randomized, then you don't know what question comes. Screen recording question collection, yeah, it's also the same. The problem with the question. You can learn based on the question collection later on if other people have recorded the screen. Oh yes, then you can also learn from the material you have in the lecture. So that doesn't make a huge difference. And if it's non-proctored, of course, you can also pay another professor of microbiology for my microbiology exams to do it. Yeah, and this is something you cannot really avoid, if it's non-proctored. Now, this is interesting because that's showing you the outcome. And these were non-proctored exams. And the exam in the Corona times 2020 and 21 were exactly the same question pool. And you see that the results didn't differ at all from each other. So you had a failure rate of around about 30%, and the results were more or less the same. So that's now I have proctored exams always in applied microbiology as an example, and it's the same. Of course, I change now the questions and so on. I have new question types and so on. But overall, it's not a problem with cheating, despite the fact that the students sit next to each other on PC monitors and can easily watch the other monitors in the PC pools. Yeah. Now, the problem is generating a question in Moodle is already no fun. This is not so. It's not so intuitive. It takes a lot of time. If you want to set up a multiple response question, for example, you need to put the percentages and so on. It's a pain in the ass. Generating 100 of these questions, it's a nightmare. Now, the way to get more reasonable and better is don't look at these things here. Go to these closed questions. Choose this closed question because a closed question in principle has all other question types integrated. And you have the full flexibility with respect to how to generate the question. So, and if you are used to the way how these questions can be entered, questions can be set up way faster. So now let's have a look on how such a closed question looks like. And I show you that because all the Excel code generates later on closed questions. And if you want to edit these questions in Moodle, it makes, of course, very much sense to have an idea how these questions are structured. So in general, a closed question always looks like this. So you have this bracket, then the points, the type of the question, then you get the correct response here. Then with a tilde, you then have the wrong response. And with a hashtag, you can then put the feedback. So this is how it's structured. And in this example, you have are you a close expert? A closed question is a question type in verb, offering the full flexibility question design. And at the end, also in closed questions, 1 + 1 is hopefully 2. So you see that the first inserts a question of the type multiple choice, which shuffles, and there are 2 possibilities, Moodle and Cloze, and Moodle is correct. The second offers a field, puts a field where you can write something in. And if flexip is inside, then you get the point. And the third expects you to give a number. This is an NM. And the correct response is 2. And if you put in 2, everything is correct. Okay, so let's just demonstrate how this works. We create a new question. And we say it's Cloze. So we select that. Add new question. And I'm inserting my text. Now the point is I have to insert it as source code because otherwise I have some elements inside. So I'm just copying, pasting it as the source code, and I make it here. Again, the formatting a bit nicer. I'm formatting this title. So, and you see this is the question, and I can save changes and continue editing. And now the question is parsed, and we can preview it. Larger. Are you a Cloze expert? So are you a Cloze expert? The question type is, and we have set that's Moodle, offering the full flexibility. And also here 1 + 1 is 2. Check. And believe it or not, everything is correct. What you see here in the description is also, if you have put the incorrect response here, Cloze, then you get a message what. You can get this what as a message. Of course, you can put there more meaningful text. If you want to have a question bank with 100 of these questions, you have to do it either one question by question. You have to invest a couple of days in programming in XML or Python to generate this random question. Or you can ask a friend who has already done that. And this is why you're here. Ask me, I'm your friend. And I'm offering you these macros for free. And first, before offering it to them, I want to you, I want to show you what you can expect, what you have seen. So first of all, how does it work? You have seen it at the very beginning, very briefly. So you type in the question text, you type in the responses, you randomize maybe numbers if you have a number question. You define the number of responses, answers, and simply generate the Moodle question. This is then automatically exported in the Moodle format, and you just import that in the question collection. And this is as easy as I have shown. This is exported in the Moodle XML file, and you just can click on import, and then all the questions you have generated are imported. And whether you generate 5 or 20 questions doesn't make a difference. It's just putting another number, and it takes the same time. Now, what question types will you get? So you have already seen this assign element question. So this is the first, and I would say most easy and straightforward question type. There are also multiple response questions generated. And there are also multiple response single choice questions generated. We will see that in a second. You will also have single choice questions. You get the option of generating correction tables. You will see that in a second what that means. And you have also the generation of Cloze questions, offering you a free design of the questions. Finally, calculation questions, which is a more complex one, where you randomize the numbers, and you in contrast to Moodle, you can use variables. You see that at the end. And finally, essay, which is not just to have it complete. So these question types you get, and all of these question types are generated with a separate Excel sheet, which is, again, can be downloaded via GitHub. Okay, assign element, I don't have to repeat. You have seen that already at the beginning. So this is kind of, you have a picture, you have a gram-negative cell wall, and you need to assign. And this is a typical question in the first or second semester. A multiple response question looks like this. Now, this is the question which is generated right away. So you just collect your questions. You may type in 20, for example, and then it is randomized. Differences are drawn and put together. You can also put pictures. And by the way, and this is true, I forgot to say that for the assigned question, this is true for all questions. You can also randomize pictures. So different pictures can be used and the text is adopted. So this increases the randomization even more. This is especially important for this assign question. If always it looks the same and if this is always A, this is more easy to see if the other student next to you had as by chance also this A, then it's easy to see. But if you have one version with an A here and another version with where this is a 1, then this makes it, of course, way harder in an exam situation to get that also coordinated. And this is also possible. This is possible for all the types of questions. So I will not go here again in this detail. So this is then generated automatically, and automatically the percentages and so on are calculated. And there is also the option in this question type to put such a statement thing. This is which I often use, and then you would have a free text where they have the option to explain. So again, the details are in a separate video. Watch out for the video. Now we come to multiple response single choice. So this is kind of the official way. You can, at least in Germany, you can then, this is by law an option. The multiple response is critical because if you have a wrong response, you have to reduce the points. If you have a correct response, you have to increase the points, which makes it by court, this is less allowed. However, you can. This is the official version. This is allowed because you have then a single choice. So you have the statements. The structure is the same. You just put the statements, and then it generates then this type of question automatically by just pushing the button. Then it draws the statements. So it has, from the pool of statements, it draws the statements. It draws the combinations here, and one of them obviously is correct. So everything is drawn, and this is then officially allowed. However, this type is way more difficult for students because it's a yes or no. Either you have the full points or no points. So usually I mix in some of these normal multiple response questions. Otherwise, you have a problem. By the way, I, of course, do not design my exam that all of them are multiple response questions. Some of them are, but not all, of course. Now, single choice questions, I don't have to explain. So this is an Excel sheet again, separate video for that, generating single choice questions. I personally rarely use that, to be honest. And this is a correction table. This I use almost in every exam. So this Excel VBA generates, then you also can bring in a picture. Often this for these correction tables, this is rather rare, but this can be done. And then you have here text, and you need to find out what is wrong, and you need to correct it. And this is also generated automatically by this Moodle text. And now you have the King's discipline, kind of a close question, which is generated where you have a complete freedom. Also here you have pictures. Also here you have the typical closed text where you have then this where you can choose, but you can also put in things like tables, assign elements, you can put free fields and so on. So this also is fully for free. It's fully, all options are there. Of course, you randomize then what appears in the text. So you can you have different texts appearing here. You randomize, of course, here also in the table. Also, the order is randomized. And so you have the full randomization option. And again, don't forget, what you generate is not one question. Then you can generate 20 separate questions where everything here is randomized, and even the pictures again are randomized. And finally, kind of the King's discipline are the calculation questions. Now, there you randomize the numbers here. So you can say room A is a calculation of the apartment. So you can randomize here the numbers. Then you have the calculation. The problem with Moodle correction is that either you're correct or not. And if it's a follow-on error, Moodle cannot correct it. So what you can do in these sheets in addition is you can get all the answers and analyze in the Excel sheet whether the answers are correct and bring it back to Moodle. And of course, for such a simple question, this is not an issue. But for example, in bioprocess engineering and so on, the calculations are really huge. So instead of correction of 2 hours per student for the same content of the exam, now I have a correction of 3 hours for all students, which makes a huge difference. However, setting up these questions, I have to tell you, is an art of itself. I would not start with these questions to set up. Try another equation before, even if you're most interested in these calculation questions. Of course, it's a calculation. This is not real maths. So you always have results, which are numbers. It's not a math algorithm. It's Moodle. It's not a math algorithm behind that giving you kind of an AI whatsoever. This is just math. And finally, where can you find everything? Yeah, just go to Git and go to my GitHub Moodle Excel. Everything is free. It's under the MIT license, so you can use it. And here comes also the drawback. At present, it only runs on Excel for Windows. It doesn't run on Excel for Macintosh. I want to change that. Maybe if you watch that video, this has already been changed. This will be mentioned then in the README file. Yeah, at the end, that's it. This is what I wanted to show you. So this is simply the introduction of why randomization in Moodle is an issue, how Cloze questions are looking like, and what these different Excel macros will look like. And of course, if you want to use them, then you need to just watch the videos of this Excel description of each individual one. I would start, if I were you, with the assign video, because that's the most there I start with. I have the most pronounced explanation, and this is kind of the simplest form. I would not start with mass or with Cloze because they're more complex. So start with assign, and then you can go to the other types. If you feel comfortable, you can, the sheets are, of course, not so complicated. You might also be able to just do it right the way. Maybe one video is enough, and then you can also use the others. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. Hopefully I can help you with these files. Have luck. It's on Git, so you can also participate in developing further. You're warmly welcome. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.